Okay, I'm going to show you quick how to cite a podcast in APA style on your references page. I will say it's a little bit convoluted, but I'll walk you through it here. First, you have whoever is the host of the podcast. Now, most podcasts have hosts, but if there's no host, like for example, APA gives the example of executive producer, you can just put that person's name, whoever seems to be the primary person in charge of the podcast, and put their title here. Notice again, parentheses, period after the parentheses. Also, APA only ever wants people's first initials. They don't want people's first names. Next up, you have the date in which the podcast was published first, year, comma, and then month and date, period after the parenthesis. Next up, you have the title of the podcast, and APA does not want every word capitalized, just the first word and proper nouns and whatnot. So if your podcast has seasons and episodes, which some do and some don't, this is how you write the seasons and episodes. But if there's none, you just skip it, followed by a period. Then APA wants to clarify what the media is. So this is the spot where you put audio podcast episode in brackets, followed by a period. Next up, we have the name of the actual whole podcast. Word in the dark. And then the podcast title is capitalized with the major words capitalized, and it is also in italics, followed by a period. Then we have the company that is responsible for producing the podcast. Some podcasts have this, some don't. If there is one, put it here. And then lastly, APA would like the web address or the URL that you can locate the podcast on if it's available. I've got a different example here, a slightly different type of podcast with some different features. This one, first of all, has two hosts. This is how you write two people, ampersand sign in the middle, and then last name, comma, first initial, last name, comma, first initial. Just like above, we have the day the episode first came out. We have the title of the episode. Again, note the lack of capitalization here. We have the same audio podcast episode in brackets. And then we have the name of the whole podcast in maintenance phase. This podcast is not produced by a company. It's just produced by individuals. So we skip that part, and then we just include the URL where anyone could find the same episode.